Welcome back to Orthodox Life with Bishop Nikolai. That's me. This is our third episode that we're filming now. And we're going to give a little general overview of parish life, and then we're going to start again into Q&A.
What does parish life in the Orthodox Church look like?
Yeah, different to different people. To some people, parish life means coming to church on Sunday morning, going home after church, and coming back next Sunday. Ideally, parish life would be people coming to church, getting to know each other, start discussing things in common, even sharing their children and some of their interests and interests of the adults themselves, and then participating in the weekday services, and then taking that parish life home. That means prayer life, morning prayers, evening prayers, preferably with your family. If there is a family, if it's an individual, doing that yourself. Keeping the fasts of the church, and following the general order of what's expected of an Orthodox Christian in church to take that on the outside, and that might be parish life in short.
Why is building that community and kind of practicing that so important to the church and Orthodox spirituality?
It's not important to the church. It's important to the individual. Christ established this church and gave us a way to live. And it's important for us to carry that on in every aspect that we can. And the only way that we can reinforce that is by coming to church, participating in the divine liturgy, receiving the sacraments, and living that life. By doing that, then we can take that outside to our families, to our friends, to whomever sees us. And those are the kind of things that we talk about, as I emphasize so many times with our people. Don't be ashamed to make the sign of the cross in a restaurant before you eat. You would see other religions not hesitate a moment to do what their tradition calls for. So why wouldn't we do that? So we have to be, again, more willing to expand on who we are and not push it on anybody. It's who you are, and then you carry that in your own way.
Most definitely. So what would you say to somebody who thinks they can be Orthodox without a parish?
Oh, what would I say to that person? I would just laugh. Every Orthodox Christian needs to have a home church. I remember when we started this parish years ago, there was a family that was very involved in one of the other Orthodox churches, and they came to me and they said, well, we're going to be going to that parish part-time and over here part-time. And I said, well, how do you expect to have any continuity with your parish life by being in two places? Well, we have this relationship with the priest. I said, well, you need to make a decision, which is your home parish. I'm not opposed to people visiting other parishes on special feast days and baptisms and special events. I'm not an advocate of people going out looking around. People should be doing that before they become Orthodox. Before they decide what church in which they're going to be baptized, they should then, if that's what they want to do. I have both of those kinds of people over the years here in the parish. I have people who've never been to another church. This is the only church they came to, and they've been here now for years and have never been to another Orthodox church. They're perfectly satisfied with what they found. I have others who've gone to the other churches in town. There are 6 other Orthodox churches here, and then they decided to stay here. And I've had those again who've come here, were baptized here, and realized after a certain period of time, this isn't where they wanted to be either. You have that too.
So pretty much in short, you would say it's very difficult to grow in the faith, or almost impossible without being involved in a parish and at least having that home base to where you can kind of go to, right?
Well, let's go a little bit further, because we have people now all over the country who are looking into Orthodoxy. We had a fellow here, I think I mentioned in the first episode, was visiting from, I don't know, North or South Carolina, I don't remember. And his son was looking into Orthodoxy in the military in Texas, and then he and his wife started looking at Orthodoxy. And they're now back in one of those towns in the Carolinas. The nearest Orthodox church is over an hour away. But they made a decision to make a commitment to make that drive. So will they go every weekend? That couple probably will. But I think there are people who will find orthodoxy and want to participate in orthodoxy and not have a church where they can participate in on a regular basis. But those people too need to have a home church. They need to have somewhere they can relate to and have that connection with the priest to participate in what the church offers.
So how would, a new person approach relationships with fellow parishioners and, kind of entering the door there?
Well, I think probably the easiest way for that to happen is when we recognize that someone's new to church. And we try to do that at the end of the liturgy if someone's visiting for the first time. And then we kind of rely on the other people in the parish to kind of latch on. Come over and say, oh, welcome to All Saints, come and have coffee, please join us. That's kind of how it should work. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes people are not interested in the social part of church. They're interested in coming to church and going home afterwards. I've made the comment when people criticize that not everybody stays for coffee hour, and they don't. And I always make the comment, if I was a layperson, I don't think I'd ever go to coffee hour. I mean, that's just me. I love the church, but that's why I come, is for the church. I wouldn't be coming to church for the social part. But it's part of what we have, and it's an extension of the church. By the way, I do go to coffee hour every week.
Yes. I guess more unique these days that, here at All Saints, every Sunday you do a full coffee hour and lunch service for the parishioners here. And on that note, obviously, there's things the parishioners can do to help with that lunch service, but is there any other, things that even long-term people who have been coming to the church who, want to be more involved can maybe do to help out here?
Oh, sure. It's a big complex. There's a lot of things that have to be done here, and it's nice to see now, after all of these years, some people stepping forward. And I made this comment the other day when one of our parishioners was loading up bottles for the holy water, because we take them down the street to fill them up with the clean water. And I said, because I've noticed it several times now, he's done that. He said, well, I'm trying to stay on top of it. Well, I remember when it was me loading those bottles up in my car and me going down there and standing there in line and loading up those 5-gallon bottles. And somebody always came over and felt sorry for me because probably how I'm dressed and would help me load my car, load the bottles. It was kind of fun and a chance to have a little conversation too. There's a preparation for the meals. It's a big preparation, just getting everything ready. We don't just have meals on Sundays. We have a meal after every Holy Day service too. It takes a lot of work to set up for that and a lot of work to clean up after that. There are teams now that do that. The same thing that there are teams doing the coffee hours. We have a church school program that takes, I suppose there's probably 10 people involved in that. Education from the youngest to the adults who want to participate. The kids have to. The adults have the opportunity to participate or not. There's work around the parish here that people can do. Nice things, the bookstore, again, it's a big enterprise that we have over there. We have a freestanding building that there's 3 people that work that bookstore on a regular basis. We can order anything that people need or want that's related to the church, and other things too. Landscaping. We're going to be putting lights up now on the cupolas that we just installed. And 2 of our men are working on that now. They're laying the whole project out, and they said they're going to start working on it next week. I said, well, why don't you wait till September when it's a little cooler? They picked August when it's 115 degrees, but their choice.
I know anybody who's ever been to All Saints knows that, we have a very active, children here. The parents bring their kids, and it's, very good to see. And with the church school that we provide, maybe you can speak a little bit about that.
I'll touch on that a little bit differently. I saw some people at lunch one day who belonged to one of my former parishes here in town, and one of the ladies said, "Oh, you'd be so happy now. We've got a lot of kids in our church now, and they're running around like when you were there." And I kind of chuckled because when I was there, I was an advocate. Don't hold those kids down, and I was like that here too, until Father Felipe came. I didn't care if the kids were running around. certain age, they've got to behave, but the babies that crawling around, I didn't mind that. I don't hear them. And then Father Felipe thought, well, maybe we should probably have they should be a little more disciplined. And so we've come to that now where the kids are very well disciplined, I think, on Sundays. They're not running around and they're not playing with certain kinds of toys that make a lot of noise. They're playing with soft toys and the older kids, of course, behave much differently. That's one of the elements that I said every parish needs to have. And that's a religious education program that starts with the youngest all the way to the oldest in the parish. It's critical. You have to offer that.
On the note of, the kids' school and the children here, I know that you were exploring some ideas about maybe doing a summer camp or a retreat trip for them upcoming here soon. Do you have maybe any news on that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, Sunday after church, we took a ride to Mount Potosi. There's a Methodist church camp out there that I used many years ago, probably 40 years ago I started. And it was pretty primitive. It's on the side of a mountain. And we took the camp in the summertime out there for 3 or 4 days, whatever. I don't remember what it was exactly. But camp life is wonderful. You build a camaraderie among the kids and the staff who were part of that. So we went out there and looked at the camp, and they've really upgraded. Now they have air conditioning. They have a dormitory building. And so we took the dates of October 30th and 31st. We'll actually go out on Thursday afternoon, come back on Saturday. So it'll be over a course of a 3-day period. And it was a perfect time because those were the dates that I was hoping, because it's Halloween. What better time to take our kids to a church camp than on Halloween? So that'll be in my next newsletter, advertising those dates. And because the 31st is Nevada Day, it's a Friday, in Las Vegas, the kids are out of school, so it's a perfect day for us.
That works out great.
Yeah.
And awesome. That's so good that, you were able to secure those dates and, coming even sooner than I thought it was. So.
Yes, it's going to be a good opportunity for Father Dimitri to walk up and down the hill like I used to do.
Most definitely. So.
Yeah, I would mention, I mentioned church school. That was one of the elements that's important. Another element that's important for the church is to have an atmosphere that's prayerful. So that when you enter the chapel, as soon as you enter, you feel it's a different place. Because when those first missionaries went from Kiev to Constantinople, and they went to the Church of Hagia Sophia, it said that they didn't know if they were in heaven or on earth. The church needs to be like that place of heaven in the world. The atmosphere, again, in the church is created by what kind of music. The music needs to be prayerful. I'm not an advocate of concert choirs. I'm not advocate of, booming, voices in the church. Rather, an atmosphere that encourages people to pray. So those are the kind of things that we have. And the other thing is, the weakest part of that element, those elements I'm speaking of, is to be able to give them something that they can take home, and that comes from the sermon. And I've come over the years to recognize that even if you touch someone with what you have to say in that sermon, that's good. Because the Divine Liturgy itself is a sermon. You don't need to hear from me or anybody else. The liturgy itself is that powerful. So if we can do that and touch someone or even more people, it's good. It's the kind of things that create that sense of community, that we're in one place together. There are no places for certain people to stand in the church that have more prominence. Everybody comes in here and they're equal in the eyes of God.
And it's a little unique here that you don't have pews. It's standing room. There are chairs for, people who obviously need to take a seat, but, that's not very common these days. So very good that, keep that tradition. It very, very much does encourage you to pay attention, be involved, and be praying.
Yeah, I'll tell you a pew story. When I was at St. Simeon's, the Serbian church, when I came here, I came to Las Vegas to start that parish. We built a multi-purpose building that had a chapel. The chapel's smaller than our chapel here, but the plan was to build a new church, and they're in the process now of doing that. So the chapel was just about ready for us to move in. And I thought this is going to be great because we were using an Episcopal church that had pews for our services. I thought, this is great. We'll have our own church and no pews. And I got a phone call from my church president. He said, "Oh, Father, I've got a surprise for you when you come to the church." I said, "Oh, great." So I went to the church, and he had all these pews in the church. I said, "Where are these from?" Well, there was a Lutheran church downtown that was redoing their pews. Beautiful wooden pews. I mean, these were really beautiful. Had I been the pastor of that church, I would have just refinished them. They're much nicer wood. They were solid wood. I said, "Well, no, we don't have pews." "Oh, yeah, the cathedral in Los Angeles has pews." Well, and the bishop supported the fact that pews were okay. So the pews were there. And when we built St. Paul's, we didn't put pews in that church. So it's part of the tradition in the old country, in the traditional old country churches. There are no pews. We're standing, waiting to serve God. And it's a good thing to do. And I know people say, when they first come for the first time, "Well, got to stand for 2 hours." It passes after the first or second time you're here. You don't think about it. If you're paying attention to what's going on, the time passes. I'm going to ask Father Dimitri to join me here in the Q&A, and hopefully we'll have some interaction and some discussion on some questions that you people have sent in.